The shift ended with a note on her apron. Terminated effective immediately. Not for a spill. Not for a complaint. For serving a table of bikers who came in after long ride, dusty boots, loud laughter, no reservations. The manager said it was brand damage. She didn't argue. She folded her name tag into her pocket, wiped the counter one last time, and walked out to a parking lot that felt colder than the air inside. Rain started as she reached her car. She didn't cry. She drove home and made tea. The next morning, the world showed up at her door, not with pity, but with purpose. And what happened after that changed everything. If you've ever been punished for doing what's right, this story is for you. Like, subscribe, and let this be the moment you remember. Kindness doesn't need permission to win. She wasn't the kind of server who smiled through gritted teeth. She was the kind who remembered names, who asked how your day was without waiting for an answer, who refilled coffee before you, asked and left a napkin, folded like a sale for kids who needed something to hold on to. Her uniform was always clean, her posture steady, her voice calm even when the rush turned the dining room into a storm. Her life outside the restaurant was quiet, a small apartment with mismatched mugs, a cat named Mocha who slept on her lap during TV reruns, and a calendar marked with shifts, grocery runs, and the occasional movie night with her sister. She worked double shifts not because she loved the noise, but because rent was due, her mother's medicine needed to be paid for, and dignity meant showing up, even when no one noticed. Customers called her sweetheart or honey, sometimes with warmth, sometimes with condescension. She never corrected them. She just kept moving, keeping plates balanced, voices soothed, tables cleared. The regulars knew her by heart. The man who ordered eggs over easy every Sunday, the woman who brought her own spoon for soup, the group of seniors who sat by the window and talked about their grandkids like they were still 5 years old. The bikers weren't regulars. They arrived in a roar of engines, took up the corner booth, and ordered enough food to feed a small army. No one else wanted to serve them, she did. She didn't flinch at the leather, the tattoos, the way they laughed too loud. She treated them like everyone else, with respect, with efficiency, with the same care she gave to the CEO, who tipped poorly and the student who forgot his wallet. The manager saw only the image, loud, intimidating. Not our demographic, he didn't see the way one biker held the door for an elderly woman, or how another quietly slipped a $20 into the tip jar after paying his bill. He didn't see the gratitude in their eyes when she brought extra, napkins for the grease on their fingers. He saw a threat to the brand and fired her for it. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She just walked out, head high, hands empty, heart heavy. That night, she lit a candle, drank her tea, and wondered if anyone would notice she was gone. The next morning, the restaurant opened as usual. The hostess greeted guests with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The kitchen ran on autopilot. The waitstaff moved with the quiet efficiency of people who know they're replacing someone who mattered, more than they admit. At 11:30 a.m., the first biker pulled up, then another, then another. 10 bikes lined the curb, engines off, helmets on hooks, boots tracking mud across the mat. The hostess froze. The manager paled. The diners stared. They didn't sit. They stood in a line at the front desk. One of them, a man with a scar above his eyebrow and a voice like gravel, handed the manager a stack of envelopes. "These are for her," he said. "We don't want to eat here anymore. We want her back." The manager stammered, then tried to explain policy. The biker didn't move. He just looked at him and said, "You fired her for being kind. That's not a policy. That's a failure." A second biker stepped forward. "We'll pay for every seat in this place for the next month if you rehire her. No questions. No conditions. Just bring her back." The manager hesitated. He glanced at the hostess, who nodded slowly. He looked at the customers, who were now watching with rapt attention. He picked up the phone. She answered on the third ring. "Hello? Hi," he said. "It's the manager. We made a mistake. We'd like you to come back. Today. We'll make it right." She didn't say yes right away. She paused. She thought about the rain, the tea, the silence. Then she said, "I'll be there in 30 minutes. When she walked in, the room went quiet. The bikers stood as one. The regulars clapped. The hostess smiled, really smiled, for the first time in weeks. The manager handed her a new name tag. "Welcome back," he said. But the real shock came later. At 1 p.m., a line formed outside the restaurant. Not for food, for her. People who had seen the news, heard the story, read the social posts. A teacher brought her class. A nurse brought her colleagues. A man in a suit dropped a check for $500 with a note. For the waitress who served strangers like family. By 3:00 p.m., the restaurant had a new sign. "Kindness served here." The manager hung it himself. The bikers returned every week, not to eat, but to say hello. The regulars started tipping more. The hostess stopped pretending to smile. She didn't become a celebrity. She became a reminder. Kindness doesn't need permission to win. It just needs someone brave enough to give it space. The moment she walked back in, the room didn't applaud. It breathed. The bikers rose as one, not to cheer, but to honor. The regulars clapped, not loudly, but with a rhythm that felt like relief. The hostess smiled, really smiled, for the first time in weeks. The manager handed her a new name tag. "Welcome back," he said. But the real turning point wasn't the return. It was the line that formed outside the restaurant at 1 p.m., not for food, for her. People came from all over. A teacher brought her class. A nurse brought her colleagues. A man in a suit dropped a check for $500 with a note. For the waitress who served strangers like family. By 3:00 p.m., the restaurant had a new sign. "Kindness served here." The manager hung it himself. The bikers returned every week, not to eat, but to say hello. The regulars started tipping more. The hostess stopped pretending to smile. She didn't become a celebrity. She became a reminder. Kindness doesn't need permission to win. It just needs someone brave enough to give it space. Life didn't turn into a parade. It turned into something better. Routine with meaning. She kept her job. She kept her quiet strength. She kept her name tag. But now, when she walked into the restaurant, the staff greeted her by name. When she poured coffee, the customers said thank you, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. When she cleaned a table, the chairs were pushed in before she got there. The manager learned to listen. He started a kindness corner, where staff could share stories of small wins. He invited the bikers to a monthly community table, where they ate free and told stories. He put a photo of her on the wall with a simple caption. "This is why we serve." The restaurant didn't become a destination. It became a place where people chose to stay longer, talk louder, and laugh harder. The line outside didn't last forever, but the lesson did. She didn't change the world. She changed a room, and sometimes that's enough. The lesson is simple. Kindness doesn't need a stage. It just needs a person willing to show up even when no one is watching. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to be perfect to be enough. If this story touched your heart, don't let it stop here. Like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness. Wins to keep these life-changing stories alive. Drop a comment below. Tell us what part moved you the most. Your words might inspire someone else.